Stevie King season is coming to an end.
After 2 months, you may ask? And yeah, after 2 months. Have I mentioned that I am kind of bad at consistency? Well, I am. No, I did not forget about it, actually. It just kind of slipped by. Anyway, back to our not so regularly scheduled program.
Hello everyone, be very welcome, make yourselves very comfortable. I am the Blue Book, and this nightmare of a mess I did to review different seasons is finally getting its last video. If you managed to stumble your way into this video because you really wanted a review on the breathing method, I am sorry to confuse you. You don't have to watch the other videos to get the gist of this one, but these 4 reviews were originally conceived as one large, big review. So I will be referencing them and the other stories inside different seasons. If you've been with me through the whole journey, thank you. That's very decent of you. Very decent indeed. And so comes the 4th. My throat is absolutely killing me. I've been doing this all day. It's 12:30, I think. I am exhausted, but I am so close to finishing. The breathing method. The last of these 4 stories, and also the shortest one. It is the tale of an old lawyer called David, who, after many years of working for his boss, is suddenly invited to a gentleman's club. In these gatherings, the old men come to drink and chat, maybe read a book, but most importantly, they come to tell stories. And one night, on their last evening before Christmas comes, old Emlyn McCarron tells the tale of the breathing method, which happened to him when he was a much younger man. Now, there is one thing Christmas stories must absolutely be, and that is uncanny. Sorry if I sound like a broken record, but I really liked this story. I felt immersed into it very quickly. It is the one story out of the 4 that borders into the supernatural. It's not an in-your-face sort of supernatural, but more around the edges. The place where these men gather is somewhat strange. Again, nothing in your face, but little things that don't make sense are everywhere. Our main character, David, begins noticing things like an author he's never heard of before, or perhaps a poem that he reads inside a collection, but when he goes to the library to look for this poem, he can't find it anywhere. There is a billiard table from a brand that doesn't sound quite right, along with a lot of other little things that just don't fit. And there is also an ominous feeling to the place whenever the nights come to a close. A feeling like one shouldn't linger anymore. So yeah, the setting had me very hooked. I love stories that just lightly touch on the fantastical, just sprinkled over. Not this one particularly, but those kinds of stories where you're not quite sure if the fantastical is actually happening. But I was even more hooked when the story after which the novella is named began. The tale of the breathing method. The story within a story is told by Emlyn McCarron, and how some years after World War II, he met Sandra. Back then, Dr. Emlyn was the sort of doctor who looked into pregnancies and deliveries, all that baby stuff. And when Miss Sandra Stansfield comes to be examined by Dr. McCarrow, it is very evident that the woman got pregnant out of wedlock. super frowned upon at the time, definitely going to get you the side eye if people know, probably more than just a side eye. Sandra is a very young woman, described as having a cool and collected temperament. Everything she does in the most logical and economical way she can. She has a very limited amount of money, and she is gathering as much as she can before she starts showing, because she knows she'll be kicked out of her job once people notice her belly bump. I'll save you the suspense, it does happen, and it is maddening. I was slowly but surely taken in by this doctor and his patient. Dr. Emmeline giving her advice and care with each visit that she makes, and Sandra growing more and more comfortable with him one step at a time. I feel like they become true friends, and Sandra gets to confide honestly with him and laugh more freely. It got me so tender-hearted. I just love them so much. This is the part of the story where two very important things were happening in my brain. One, I completely forgot that I was reading a story within a story. I was just that captured with Dr. Emmeline and Sandra. And two, I also forgot who the author of the book I was reading was. I forgot I was reading a Stevie King story, and I got lured into a false sense of security by the previous 3 stories, which were all pretty regular stories. Like, there wasn't fantasy or supernatural elements or true horror in them, even if they were horror-y aspects in each of them. And so I was caught unawares by the soul-destroying, decimating anime gut punch of what happened next. If you've ever seen an anime gut punch, you'll know what I mean. Let me give you some context to what led to me receiving this gut punch. There is a picture in Dr. Emmeline's office from when he graduated, and he's standing in front of a statue of a very severe looking woman. This is actually a statue of his late mother, but it's not important. It's a picture that was taken in front of the hospital he currently works at, and it has an inscription in Latin that translates to, "There is no comfort without pain. Thus, we find salvation through suffering." On their second to last meeting before the baby is due, Dr. Emmeline is looking at the picture and is suddenly filled with a huge sense of fright. And all of a sudden, Sandra is looking at the picture and asking questions about it when she'd never even paid attention to the picture before. And then, on the last meeting before the baby is due, Sandra gives a chaste kiss to Dr. Emmeline and a heartfelt goodbye. And Dr. Emmeline is like, "It's not like we're not going to see each other again, dear." And I just knew that King was going to fuck with me. Here be heavy spoilers. The day of the delivery, Christmas Eve, I think, the taxi driving Sandra to the hospital slips in the ice covering the city and crashes against the statue with the inscription at the same time Dr. Emmeline is arriving. This is preceded by just the most gruesome imagery of poor Sandra and her beheaded body while she's giving birth. Holy moly, I thought the most horrifying birthing scene I was going to have to witness ever was in Breaking Down Part 2. But this is a strong contestant.
Oh, fuck the light! Oh my god, I can still finish.
Sandra's body is still breathing, her neck wheezing because, there is no more head. Anyway, it's a whole ass scene, just frankly terrifying. There's blood everywhere. but Dr. Emlyn manages to deliver the baby safely. It's implied that even past death, Sandra was helping along the process, not letting her body grow stiff and cold. I was just very horrified while reading this scene, and I hadn't been able to stop crying in a while since I realized this wasn't going to end anywhere nice. And just this dread began mounting in me. But despite all this, despite all the horror, there is still a measure of happiness in this god-awful scene because the bodiless head of Sandra manages to thank Dr. Emlyn for everything. And the baby is saved, and you can tell her spirit is there with him. It is horrible and beautiful, and I hate it so much. I cried so much out of impotent rage because throughout the whole story, Sandra is struggling to surpass and get over her situation, and she does. She does surpass her situation by her own means and smarts. Level-headed, collected Sandra fights to be in a decent place where she can raise her baby without the worry of people calling him a bastard wherever he goes, and just giving him a good life. All of the story is to give him a good life, to give her baby a good life. But all the fight seems to be almost for nothing in the end, because she dies. But it was not for nothing, I suppose. Her baby boy lived. There is a hole in my soul, and I would like it to go away, please. I made a throwaway comment on the Apt Pupil video about how the main character of the first story, Andy Dufresne, is there. Now, if you've ever familiarized yourself, even briefly, with Mr. King's work, you'll know he has a connected universe. I'm pretty sure I caught a connection in my It video. There was also a mention of Shawshank prison in one of the other stories. I think, don't quote me on that. I just really felt the connectivity of that world in this book. I'm bringing this up because the world of the breathing method feels so much larger than anything I could grasp. I don't know, like maybe if I've read more of his books, I would catch some things of significance. And I'm talking about the story of the Old Gentleman's Club and not the Headless Woman. This place where they gather to drink and talk felt big. We don't really see a lot of it, but King infuses the text with a sense of depth to this world. After I finish this, I am definitely going to go look for a video explanation on the breathing method, because it gave me a lot of food for thought about things that I can't hope to decipher for myself. At the very end of the story, when everyone's leaving the club after the story of the decapitated woman, the old lawyer David wants to ask one more question. He feels like he's been part of this gathering of gentlemen for a long time, and he's entitled to some answers. He needs to ask about the place, about why they're going there, about the books with the author who doesn't exist, and the strange sounds inside the house. But he feels it again, that ominous feeling, like if he asks, there'll be irrevocable consequences. He thinks, if I step out of this house, there'll be out there something come out of a Clark Ashton Smith landscape, and I will fall in it and be lost forever. This doesn't happen though. He takes a cab to go home. But the fear of this unknown thing is enough for him to ask something of no importance, instead of what he wants to. Where are we? The last image and feeling that King leaves us with makes me feel like there's something eldritch horror about the narration. It gives me the shivers, and that is good. I had to tell my ma out loud about the story for this to click with me, but this place, this house, it would be perfectly described by the word uncanny.
The drawing I chose to make was very much inspired by those old horror movie posters with stark contrast in color. I struggled with choosing the colors because I'm not used to having this amount of contrast. I am actually kind of scared of like shadows and contrast in my art. This scene is depicting a dream Dr. Emlyn has. In it, Sandra comes to him, but she is carrying her head, and she's telling him, "Doomed. I am doomed. There is no salvation without suffering. It's all cheap magic, but it's all with God." And when I read that, I just knew that's what I wanted to draw. The image it left in my head was very strong, so I had to do it, and I think it turned out pretty well.
I've loved all of these stories so much, not you. I've had such a good streak with King novels, I'm now afraid of reaching the ones that I don't like. In this last part, I really wanted to order the stories from which I liked the most to which I liked less, although we all know which one would go to the bottom. But I really can't decide, I just enjoy them a lot. Perhaps with time I'll be able to come up with an arrangement. The breathing method impacted me a lot, but I think once it passes, that feeling will fade away and the true contestants will be Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption and the body. Well, that's 5 videos now I have on Stephen King. I should probably make a playlist or something. My ultimate conclusion about all of this is that having concrete ideas is hard, articulating them is even harder, being concise and straight to the point is apparently impossible to me. I tried my best, I swear, I just don't have the ability. Thank you for watching, but especially if you stuck all the way through, I really appreciate it. I don't know what I'm reading next. Maybe I should make an Asimov season next time. That sounds like a lot of work. I hope you have a very nice day.